This time we're talking about George Orwell, but specifically 1984, an Animal Farm. I finished Animal Farm this morning. This wasn't really a book club book. We were just, who started this?
I read 1984, and Liz thought she had it, but she had Animal Farm, so we read both of them.
I love how Andrea and I's conversations go. Andrea's like, I'm reading this. And I'm like, oh, I'll read it too. But I'm also reading this other book. And Andrea's like, oh, I'll read that one too. We end up with twice as many books.
And then if they're really good, they just start sending them to other people.
I would not send this one to you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Overall,
But Madeline, you and your husband then were reading Animal Farm.
yes. So Ross and I read this. We read, it's not really a book club. It's kind of a book club. We read a book together. And so it was my pick, and Ross doesn't like fiction. No.
Yeah.
Nonfiction.
He
Wait.
doesn't like
Fiction is fake.
Yes, fiction is fake. He doesn't like fiction. And so this was a nice compromise to where he could read something that wasn't like self-development, something a little more in my realm, baby steps, people. He'll be reading A Court of Thorns and Roses before we know it. And so we read that.
I can't wait till he reads that.
Yes, that's my goal in life.
Do you want Andrea to give you a synopsis of 1984?
Yes.
Well, the video also needs a synopsis, so.
Do it, Anne.
Okay, 1984 was basically about this man's life. I think when it was written, it was to be the future. Obviously, 1984 is not the future, but I think it was supposed to be a look into the future. And basically how the government is watching everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
And it basically just goes throughout like his job, like what he does at work and how he lives, and basically, I mean, it's just basically his life.
I just had a thought. It's kind of like that book we read, Liz, The Circle.
It's very similar to The Circle.
But The Circle is like the modern version of 1984. Kind of like how the pitfalls of technology and how it can be harmful and not helpful.
Yeah, like that's where Big Brother is watching you comes from, was 1984.
I never knew that before. I thought that was one of the coolest things I learned from reading the book.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I read it.
So that's 1984. Animal Farm is about an animal farm. Basically, it used to be a normal farm with a human farmer, and then they scare him off and they take over, and because they want more rights and they want more freedoms and they want to be their own animals. But then you see the transition over the book of basically habits are strong, like things transition and change and develop very similar to society. I don't know how to say much more other than like without giving it away, but
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a fable about like the dangers of what's going on in Russia at the time. So this is like, this is the criticism of like the Russian government, but told in terms of a fable through like farm animals.
one of the most I'm trying not to say the word interesting so much, but I'm going to have to say it right now. The most interesting thing I took away from this, or one of my favorite parts, was when they were talking about Sugarland Mountain, which is like their form of heaven. And in the book, they were talking about it and describing, Sugarland, that's where you go when you die, and all these things around it. I was like, oh, that's so silly. Like, reading about it, I really was like, oh, this is like such a story, so silly. But then when you think, oh my goodness, they're portraying heaven, it clicked. I was like, it probably sounds silly when you like describe that to other people.
Do you guys want to rate the books?
Ooh, yeah, let's do that. You go first.
Okay, so for 1984, I gave it a D.
That's your lowest rating yet, I think.
There might be some other, I don't know, I'd have to look. There's maybe, but it was depressing, and like this guy's life sucks. Everything is depressing. Everyone is like controlling. And then like he goes to, I don't know if this is a spoiler, but he goes somewhere, and that's even more depressing. Like, there's nothing that I was like, oh, this is happy. I thought it was gonna be happy, and then bam, it wasn't happy. I gave that one a D. I gave Animal Farm a B though, because I liked Animal Farm. It was, I don't know, it was kind of comical. Like, do you remember the horse with the bows?
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, there are people like that. Like, I don't know, they did a good job like giving the animals like human qualities to make them seem like realistic people, or like how their personalities would be. I really liked Animal Farm. I read that one a lot easier than 1984. 1984, I was like, oh my god, is this over yet? I'm like, Liz, have you finished? This is horrible.
Liz, what would you rate it?
I actually had the same ratings as Andrea. I gave 1984 a D and Animal Farm a B. 1984, like, it was depressing. It was also hard to read because he'd go into these awful, like, monotonous descriptions and like theoretical, like, philosophical discussions of stuff. And it wasn't just like little things here and there. They would go on forever, and I was like bored out of my mind, to the point where, like, to get through it, I paid for the audiobook so I could listen to it on the way to work. So I'm like, I don't know how else I'm gonna get this done. And I can't leave Andrea hanging. There were also some really weird, like, treatment and speaking about women in this book that I am generally not, like, overly sensitive to, but were, like, over the line for me. We can talk about those in the spoiler section, because I think it'll give too much away. But it was, like, eh. Yeah, Kelly?
For the time that it was written, was it like common, or was it even over the line for that?
I think it was even over the lines.
Really?
How was it written? I don't know. It's like every old book I read, it's like women suck.
Yeah.
Just
It's like World War I, right? Isn't it around like World War I, World War II time frame, like early 1900s? But Animal Farm I liked, I enjoyed. I love the idea that it's like a political statement told in terms of a fable, so it's like accessible and understandable for the general public. I love the idea of that. And it was so easy to like read and understand, like, these are like legitimately the problems, right? And this is really how people would react. Like, I thought you got a lot of insight from something that was easy to read, so I liked it.
Okay, 1984 was written in 1949. So it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
It's not like War and Peace.
Kelly, what would you rate Animal Farm? I know it's been a while.
I read it when I was pretty young. I remember, like, I read it, like, you know how books for school you like skim or you like don't read. I remember I actually read it, and like Liz said, you get a lot of insight on complex topics or concepts, but in a very simple form that's pretty much for everyone, and everyone can take something away from it or learn something without either being bored and feeling like they're reading a textbook or bailing on it because it's just like too complex of an issue. But yeah, I remember thinking it was interesting, and then I remember laughing at the heaven thing too, but I didn't catch that, like, initially I didn't catch that it was heaven. I was like, oh, that's so silly to believe. And I'm like, oh shit, we do that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what it was for me, like that aha moment of like translating it to my actual life. That was surprising.
You're a farm animal.
I am an animal. If I was an animal in there, I would have been a horse.
I could see that.
I
would
would
have been a
say pig because obviously they run the place, but I don't know. I can see me being a horse. Anyway, I would rate fun fact of the day right there. I would rate Animal Farm a B minus. I really like the translation to bigger picture type stuff, and I thought it was easy to read and short. I liked the size of it. He didn't go into too much info, and he kept it very concise, which I liked. But the only reason I rate it B minus is because I don't think I would read it again. But I would recommend it to others. 1984, it gives me such happiness that Liz said it was hard to read, because I thought it was terribly hard to read. I don't even know what happened in half that book. I would read paragraphs and be like, whoa, don't know what's going on there. But when we read Lord Grizzly, I felt the same way. And Liz was just reading away. So I was like, maybe I'm dumb. But now I don't think so. Now I think
This
we're
book
on
did
the
it for
same
you.
level.
You are not dumb.
It was like dense 1984. It was like philosophical discussion after philosophical, like for pages. I'm like, my God, like you got it, okay? Like if you can't say this distinctly, I don't think you deserve to say it. So
And he's at work for like 3/4 of the book doing the same thing every day.
yeah.
It was rough.
Can we do spoilers?
Yeah, let's do spoilers.
Yeah.
I don't know why we started doing that. It just gets so exciting when we spoil stuff. Okay, first thing I want to say is what happened to Snowball in Animal Farm.
He got murdered by Napoleon. Do you know about the real Napoleon?
Okay, I know.
Who is Napoleon based off of?
Napoleon, I thought.
Oh, is he?
That's why I thought he killed Snowball.
But did it ever say he killed him?
No, it never said. It said he ran away.
Yeah,
Napoleon is based off of Joseph Stalin.
Ah,
I
interesting.
did not know that.
And
Is off real Napoleon because he kills the guy to get his like place in the world.
Oh.
That's why I guess I just assumed that.
For a second, while Liz looks something else up. The other thing I found really, oh my gosh, I did that when I was reading, was when they killed Boxer. When they tricked him into thinking he was going to the doctor, and he went to a glue factory so they could buy more whiskey. I was just like, oh my goodness.
That part was sad. I was like, ugh, I hate these kids.
I know. He worked so hard for them his entire life. And then they just tricked him into going to the glue factory. That just broke my heart.
Snowball was based off of Leon Trotsky, who led the revolt against Stalin.
That is very interesting. I did not pick up on that.
I love the idea. I thought the real idea of Animal Farm was interesting, where you have like these horrible humans, right? And you're like, which I think are supposed to be like the kings and queens of Russia. And they're like, we're gonna like overthrow them and rule ourselves. Like there'll be like a democracy, like things will be better.
Mm-hmm.
But you do that, and then somebody else rises to power, and they're essentially just the new humans, right? Like things didn't get better. Like everyone, when like exposed to power, like someone's always going to be higher, right? And they're going to treat you poorly again. Like it wasn't actually equal.
It's a big comment on like, you can't get rid of certain ranks in life. Like you can't have love without hate. You can't have a leader without followers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter, are you a boss or are you a leader? They both comprise the same rank, but they have very different roles. But yeah, everybody's always like, peace. And I'm like, you can't, it's impossible. You can't. And this book is exactly the comment saying, you can't do that. Somebody always has to step up, else it's just chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will be cool for about 3 weeks. And then, yeah.
Yeah, it was in.
Madeline's
was trying that.
I'm just talking.
We're gonna get you a thesaurus.
I know. I need synonyms, people. Interesting.
Oh, okay, can I talk about like the weird, creepy George Orwell female comments in 1984?
Yeah, I want to hear it. Okay, hold on. Somebody give me a synopsis with spoilers about 1984, because I can't decide if I've seen this or I read this or not.
Is it a movie?
No, I misspoke. I'm sorry.
I think it is a movie. I've never seen it.
Okay, I don't know if it's a movie. It very well could be. I don't know if I've seen it, and I don't know if I've read the book.
Andrea, do it.
Well, the guy, like, it literally is about his life. You go through his life. He goes to work every day. These people are, like, monitoring him, like, all the time. Like, they monitor everyone. There's, like, this screen in their house, and they call it Big
Does he
Brother.
have a family?
Huh?
Does he have, like, a family, like children?
No,
Okay.
it's just him. And he lives in, like, an apartment, and there's this screen, and it watches you. You can't turn it off, and it like plays things like music or like speeches or whatever, and it
It's
basically
propaganda.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
propaganda. He goes to work every day and he retypes history so no one knows what really happened to make whoever's in charge, Big Brother, right. Like, so if there's like a revolt and people are like against Big Brother, they rewrite history so that no one knows that happened and that Big Brother is always right. And then he meets this girl and he thinks they're like, well, they're in love or whatever. And they have this like secret meeting place. And then there's like a TV hidden behind that. So it's like supposed to make you think that you can't go anywhere without being watched. And then he gets captured and put in jail and like tortured for like a quarter of the book.
Okay.
And then in the end, he decides to not revolt, and then Big Brother is a good thing, and he loves Big Brother.
Yeah, they like mind wash him
Okay.
by electrocution. It was terrible. I hated this book. I was like, Liz, I need you to read this so we can complain together.
And then at one point, they realize he hates rats, so they get a cage that goes like around your face, and they start to put like rats in it until he like gives in. But they were gonna just like put rats in the cage and like let the rats eat his face.
I thought it was really disturbing. It was even worse than all the ugly and wonderful things.
Whoa,
Violence.
that's quite the statement.
Ugh.
Well, at least the ugly and wonderful things was an easy read. Like,
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of times he's at work for like 10 chapters and he literally does the same thing every day. He just retypes things. I was like, oh my God, we're at work again. Okay.
So I hated that. I was like, why are we retyping history? Because you do it multiple times, right? Like they're at war with Eurasia right now. So they retype all the history stuff. So that even when they were friends with Eurasia, they were always the bad guy. And I'm like, why not just destroy the old newspapers, right? Like, why are you spending all this time rewriting things over and over again? Just like get rid of it. Don't ever do it.
what were you going to say about the comments about women in the book?
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
Overall, I thought this was weird. So in 1984, the guy's like 40. He's like not really a catch. He's boring. He's got like this. He even admits like he's just like not like a catch, right? This average looking, balding, smelly. Like he's got like a absence on the side of his leg and stuff, and he's like not in good shape. And there's this young girl at work who's in like her early 20s, and she's so pretty and petite, and she's just like gorgeous. And then one day in the hall, they're being watched all the time, but one day in the hall, they like stop and she passes him a note and it says like, I love you, like meet me somewhere. But they've like never talked before. So there's
they've
this
never, yeah. Oh.
right? So then she's in love with him and all of a sudden they're in a relationship and she's just like obsessed with him for no reason. Like she doesn't even like, it's not like she knows him and knows his personality. So she had like an emotional connection with him.
Wow.
Zero. It's like George Orwell comes off as this dude, right, who's writing like a sexual fantasy set in like a futuristic world. Like it seems like he's mostly like excited about this young girl being into this boring old guy. It's weird.
That happened to him.
I don't know. I think he wants it to happen to him. But like it was weird and it didn't make sense. And then the other thing is like then throughout the book, like her only role like in the revolt and stuff is essentially like as his girlfriend or to like serve him. Like she doesn't have like a mind of her own. She just does whatever he wants because she's in love with him. And I'm like, this is weird. And then the last thing is he goes off on this tirade, this like speech, like into like just in his head, right? Like you think this whole thought process, because his girlfriend puts on makeup for the first time because they don't wear makeup in the book, and he Kelly's face, and he just goes on and on in his head about how much better women are when they have makeup on, and how like it doesn't just make them like more like generally more attractive and accentuates their features, it makes them more feminine and more like an actual woman and therefore like more desirable for men.
George Orwell would not like work from home, Madeline.
You'd be like, is that a boy or a girl?
It was like
Gonna do well through COVID.
I wonder what he would think about us all having Alexas in our house.
Yeah, probably be freaked out.
Okay. I hate Alexa. I was so mad when Dylan brought one of those into my home because, like I said, I guess I wouldn't call myself like paranoid, but yeah, it's always listening. Always. Like you can't even talk about like anybody remotely named Alexa or Alexis or Alex or anything without it being like, the definition of Alexis is strong, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, shh. And like, they're always listening. I don't like them. I'm going to have to side with George on this one. However, you lost
still have one.
comments.
Yeah.
Liz, do you have an Alexa?
Yeah.
You. Andrea,
We mostly have it for the music. Like I am obsessed. I'm obsessed with listening to Taylor Swift every morning when I get ready. And I'm like normally moving from like room to room and like around. So we have them in different rooms so the same Taylor Swift song can be playing throughout the house.
so it can hear you everywhere.
Yeah. Kelly, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Taylor Swift in the morning.
Taylor Swift all
What
day.
about the after? Like, you don't feel like that in the afternoon?
No, I would love to listen to Taylor Swift in the afternoon, but Brennan, I have an agreement because he can't do it all day. So I would rather have it in the morning. So it's Taylor Swift in the morning and no music at night.
This is okay. I get it. I was like, oh, you only like her in the morning because I mean there are some songs you only or people you only like for the gym. I just thought it was interesting you had a morning one, but there's an agreement, so I get it. No, I hate Alexa though, but
Could you stop saying her name though?
what?
Could you stop saying her name? Mine was like gonna go off.
My blue rings are going.
Sorry.
Okay. Animal Farm. Read it. 1984. Stay away. There you go.